is Oromo Voice Radio English program. Oromo Voice Radio is broadcasting to Oromia at 16 meter band or 17,850 kilohertz or on oromovoice.org website. OVR broadcasts Oromia Insight program every Monday for 15 minutes at 7:15 p.m. Oromia local time. Welcome to Oromia Insight program.
Welcome to Oromia Insight. My name is Ali Galeto. Our guest today is Professor Hamdesa Tuso from Department of Peace and Conflict Study, University of Manitoba, Canada. His area of specialization, culture and conflict, indigenous population in the process of peacemaking, international human rights, human security, terrorism, and the Horn of Africa. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you for inviting me.
Today we're going to talk about land and land grabs and the Oromo land. Why land is so important to Oromos?
Well, land is important to indigenous communities because that's really the important commodity for them. It's more than just a commodity. They attach a spiritual dimension of life to land. Not only Oromo, all our indigenous peoples. There's a big survey by the World Bank on this. That is, indigenous people in general have a special connection with land. Trees, flowers are not just some kind of resources. They have meaning. They have meaning to these people. They have the religious values. That's one. Second, for the Oromo, an average Oromo, a peasant, land is the most important source and also an important commodity that passes from generation to generation. It is a place they bury their ancestors. It's a place they go and visit, the graveyard of their ancestors. And therefore, land is very, very important asset to Oromos as well as other indigenous communities in the world.
You participated in youth movement for social change and justice for landless peasants in Rift Valley area. What that movement like and what was your demand then?
This is a RC basic schools movement. What really happened was, late 60, what happened was that after Ethiopia had entered into global economy, there was an interest on the part of the U.S. government as well as European governments to help Emperor Selassie to develop the rural sector, agriculture. So they gave a big amount of money as a foreign aid. When we talk about this later on, and I hope, when Emperor Mili conquered the South, not only Oromos, the Sidamas, the Wolaita, and other groups, he distributed land to different groups in the Habesha communities. One category of land to the royal family, another category of land, he gave 1/3 of the land of the South to the Orthodox Church, and then also Naftanyas, colonial settlers. So part of the reward. In other words, if Selassie wanted more loyalty, he brought somebody from Gorjam or from Gondor, from Shawa, to take land in the south. And including also, he included in this is also some Oromos from Shawa, later on some from Bolaga, and not as many, but they were there. So the idea was land was a very important tool of reward for the imperial system. It's also a way of completely depriving, marginalizing Oromos. So when this money came, the money went to these colonial settlers and also were more than educated elite. So the money did not go to the peasants. So my generation, this is now late 50s, 60s, and all of that, we saw that they were evicting peasants from the land because these owners, the royal family, others said, okay, we can't rent our land to multinational corporations where they give us more rent. They can farm more, they can produce more. You guys don't have the money to compete, therefore you have to go. We're going to evict you. So the initial movement of RC basically movement was essentially a reaction to a particular episode. That was the local governors and Orthodox Church leaders went to the administration of Kuyera Adventist College, and they told the administration the emperor does not want to close this school. We want him to close, but he doesn't want to. But we cannot have anything to do with that. We have no power to change that. But we are going to tell you not to go out of this campus and teach these people. So it was a pastor, a religious leader, originally from Shawa and Oromo, a very bright man, a very smart guy, gentleman, Pastor Taklamaino Kalacha, who had this. I think he was translating this drama to the missionaries. So he called our leaders. Our leaders at that time was Yonke Falama, now is a pastor, but so he lives in exile in Portland. Shinafi was there, so became a pastor. He lives in Portland. And so he said, you kids, I have this, I have an idea for you. The idea is that you should get permission from Ministry of Education, and the government has idea of literacy education. You should start campaigning, so I'd help you to get permit. I know a person, a classmate of mine from the past, Ephraim Boru, who worked in one of the government ministries. I will write a letter for you, and he will help you. So essentially, and our leaders went there for 3 months in Fifinde. They got the permit. We started school in these schools. The first year was 1960 or 1959. We had 30 schools. And you go out and teach at least 1 year free. And if necessary, you teach kids in the mosque or under a tree. If there's a school, that's great. The idea was go out and teach. The idea of teaching was we really believe that salvation to our people for their survival was having modern education. As the movement went on, it transformed itself to a different movement, which was opposing landlords, helping the peasants to sustain their land, to keep their land. Translating, at that time, the Oromos in general did not speak Amharic. So an Oromo who travels 5 hours, 4 hours, come to Nagele or Shashamane or Kofale, he cannot speak any language, Amharic language. So he has to bribe the translator, he has to bribe somebody who keeps the door for the officers. He has to bribe everybody. So our group started working on this. That is to try for people, to tell the people that they have the right to protect their land, to essentially say that you have a just cause, don't give up, don't curse you God. This is an oppressive system, work with you. That was the sense of that mission.
That's very interesting. Where is the origin of this concept of Oromo land policy in its underpinning ideological root? Where did it come from, taking the Oromo land?
Very good. This we have to, in order to explain this, we have to go to 16th century encounter between three identities. The jihadist movement from the east, led by a man known Imam Grind, and then the Christian kingdom expanded to the south. Then the Oromo indigenous spread out in the whole territory. So these two Semitic-based ideologies fight each other like hell. And the Christian kingdom was losing, so the Portuguese government, it was the first European empire that had impact in different places, including Africa. So the Christian kingdom leaders appealed to the Portuguese government. So the Portuguese government sent an army, contingency army, helped to defeat the grand jihadist movement. After that, both parties, the jihadist movement and also the Christian kingdom, they fought for several years, decades, so they were completely ruined themselves. So they withdrew. So Oromo, as indigenous people in the local, they were conscious that these people fighting with their land, so they started fighting. They just emerged, spread, and then occupied, protected their land. Then during the 17th century, 18th century, there was some kind of equivalent kind of balance or powerful balance between the Abashas, that is Amara, Tigray, the Christian kingdom, and then the Oromos. By 19th century, new drama emerges. There was a king of Shawa, Amara Shawa, by his name was Selassie. He lived around 1840s. he came up with two policies, critical policies, because for the Habashas, the issue of Oromo was existential, meaning it's a matter of death in life. They had preoccupation because the Habasha presented the fighting force and then also Islam. So this was the worst scenario for them. So this king comes up with an idea. Two ideas. One is the way to deal with, they called it Gala at that time. With Gala is that we should make some Christians so we can use them against their own people, and also we get weapons from Europe to defeat them. So he was the first who constructed this idea of conquering Oromos. And then he got the weapons, so the first thing he did was in Shawa, where the fight is going on now around Finfinne, he started killing Oromos, taking land by force, terrorizing people. And so that was the first policy, a Gala policy. Gala, we don't know where the word Gala emerged or originated from, but after the conquest, Gala became like the word Negro. Okay, if you recall, the Portuguese in around 1400 encountered blacks in Southern Africa. So they just call them Negroes, black people. But once the slave trade became intense, became big economy, big industry, and desire to subjugate, psychologically terrorize the black people became important. So anything associated with the word Negro was associated with demonizing the blacks as incompetent, savage, and all of that. So in the context of the Habasha-Oromo relationship, once the conquest took place, the word Gala became the same as they were using against blacks in the U.S., which was everything negative. So the Gala policy was then started by King Selassie and later on implemented in a very detailed way by Emperor Menelik, his grandfather. Just remember, it was King Selassie who wrote in his will that someday either his son or his grandson will conquer this territory, what's now Finfinne, and then establish a new city, capital. It was based on that Menelik created the new city, called it Addis Ababa. Before that, the Oromos called it Shaggar or Finfinne. So by the time Emperor Menelik conquered the south, including Oromos, then the Gala Maret policy became implemented. The Gala policy is defined as follows. It's a piece of land that the government can take at any time from any Oromo, give it to the government or anybody it wants. It is a land that the government, the Habashas, can take at any time. That was the policy. This is written in documents. So when Emperor Menelik conquered completely the Oromos, as I said before, the land was distributed, one-third to the Christian Orthodox Church, the rest to the royal families, and then other supporters. For example, when I was growing up in the district of Nagele, what is known as Nagele, the entire district belonged to Her Imperial Majesty. There was another 20 gashas adjacent to River Databa that belonged to his daughter, Tananya Work, Liz Tananya Work. Shashamani had the same type of patterns. So when I was growing up, I remember hearing in court about this pronunciation in Amharic about Yagala Maret, meaning the land that the government can take. It's very interesting. It's recorded in one of the records that when Emperor Menelik conquered and took all of this, there was a declaration, there was an assumption, an ideological assumption, that was just like the children of Israel under Joshua settled in the new land, the promised land, the land was distributed to the children of Israel. So did Emperor Menelik. That is a statement from the Habasha record. I have the quotation in front of me. I will not have the time to read. So that was the idea of, then by 1960s, as I said, Ethiopia entered into global economy, and external forces want more land, partly for geopolitics, and then the Habashas wanted money and land. The underpinning purpose, all of that, is to marginalize Oromos forever. because the biggest fear Abacha has ever had was that Oromo will rise up again and then kick them out of Oromo territory. This is the biggest fear they ever had. So then, during that time, it was this time also, Bale movement started in Bale. At that time, Bale was under Ashi province. It was the same. There was a man, the Jazmach Nku Wale Selassie, and he was a very radical, nasty Abacha warlord. And then his brother Nku Wale Selassie was the governor of Araja in Bale. So that governor said, the Nazi government said, we are sending more settlers, find land for them. So Hamiru said, there's no land, you are going to create problems for us, don't send anybody here. They removed him, they put his brother